In the last lecture on the history of the English language, we talked about the difficulties that English spelling presents, and more generally, the difficulties that writing presents to the scientific study of language. In this video, we will turn to some of the solutions, and those include the linguistic subdiscipline of phonology and the development of an indispensable tool for linguists, for people working in communication disorder and communication sciences and disorders, and for dictionary writers and so on and so forth, and that is the International Phonetic Alphabet. Let's get started. So, as we talked about in the last video, linguistics is not based on the written form of the language, because even a language with a very reliable and consistent writing system was never going to represent everything that somebody's going to say perfectly, because of the fact that people don't always speak like a written standard. And so the scientific study of language and the sound of language requires a uniform and universal system of transcription. This is what the International Phonetic Alphabet attempts to be. That's the topic of this video. Now, before we get to the IPA, let's talk about the different ways that people study the sound of human language. The first way is the way that is practiced in psychology by neurologists, and this involves what is sometimes called psychoacoustics, and this studies the perceptual point of view, how we perceive language, what we hear when people talk, what our brain turns the sound waves that hits our eardrums into. The second studies sound purely as a physical phenomena, and this is the sub-branch of physics called acoustics, which is the study of the middle frequency, low frequency, high frequency energy waves that we experience as sound, because we got these little things that shake in our ears, those of us with hearing. The third way that we can approach the sounds of human language is to look at it from this the standpoint of production. How do we make sounds? How do we use our lungs and our throats and our mouths and our tongues and our teeth to shape sound in a way that it creates patterns of meaning that other people can understand? This is the articulatory point of view, and this is the way that tends to be prioritized by the linguistic subdiscipline of phonology. Now, the International Phonetic Alphabet, the IPA, tries to have a unique symbol for every possible sound and combination of sounds that the human mouth can make. And it labels sounds in a way where the description of a sound, like a glottal fricative or a velar stop or a bilabial nasal continuant, I don't even know if that's a thing, but all of these things, if you've studied phonology at all, then you can, from the name of the sound, reproduce the sound or recognize the sound yourself, because the sound is classified by the articulatory features, and we're going to talk about that soon. But first, let's just talk about the basic classifications of sounds as we have traditionally understood them before we talk about how they're made. And those basic classifications of sounds are consonants, vowels, semivowels, and diphthongs. And semivowels and diphthongs are all kind of fall under vowels, but we'll get into that. So consonants, what is a consonant? You learn that in third grade maybe, like P, B, D, F, G, K, L. Consonants stop, slow, or redirect the flow of air. The air's just coming straight out, you're vibrating your vocal cords, there's no stopping it. But ga, ba, da. In all those cases, you are stopping the air. Ara, asa, asha, or slowing it, or redirecting it, or you're distorting it. You're doing something to the flow of air through your mouth. And that's a consonant. And consonants are labeled in the International Phonetic Alphabet. They're designated according to two main things. One is the point of articulation. That's where in the vocal tract the narrowing, stopping, or redirection of airflow occurs? Is it the teeth, as in like th, or is it the lips, as in buh? Is it the alveolar ridge, that little bump behind your teeth on the top of your mouth, as in duh or nuh? Or is it the palate, as in guh or kuh, as farther back in your mouth? And so, or in other languages, it might be the uvula, the little hangy punching bag thing in the back of your mouth, like like the French are, so on and so forth. And so where in the mouth is the sound being produced? And then the other thing is the manner of articulation. In what way is the airflow being obstructed or distorted at the point of articulation? Is it being stopped completely, as in ata? Is it being almost stopped, as in asa? Is it being stopped at first and then repeated, as in atsa, like a ts, tz kind of sound? Or is it being redirected through the nose? Anna, anna. This is the manner of articulation, that's the consonant. Where is it being articulated in the mouth, and how? In what way is the air being stopped or distorted? Vowels. Vowels are broadly characterized by what we can call either the quality of the vowel, and this is the position of the tongue in the mouth. A high vowel has the tongue high in the mouth. So a high vowels include, for example, e, e. Feel where your tongue is in your mouth when you say e, e, as opposed to a low vowel like o, o. Feel where your tongue is in your mouth when you say o, e, o. Feel your tongue move, e, o, e, o. I hope your roommate is watching you right now going, what the heck are you doing? And you've got like headphones on. All right, so that's the quality of the vowel. Front, back, high, low, mid. Mid vowels, kind of mid. All right, length. That is how long it takes to say the vowel. So you have long vowels and short vowels. Now in English, long vowels and short vowels also have a different quality. So we talk about a long A versus a short A, as in hate versus hat. But in a lot of languages, the length will change, and that will be a distinctive feature where ba means something, but bat means something different. Because just the length alone without the quality is a distinguishing feature of two words. Length is the duration in time that it takes to say a vowel. And when I first moved, many years ago, I moved to Canada when I was starting graduate school, and I was playing touch football with some Canadians. There were 3 down weird football. Love you guys. Sorry, no offense. But in touch football, when you hand off the ball and you take it back, and the quarterback says the people who are going to rush the passer say 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. So I'm sitting there, we're playing football, and the pass rushers go 1 steamboat, 2 steamboats, 3 steamboat, and I'm like, what? So okay, the thing is that Mississippi and steamboat, both, if you time them with like a Olympic stopwatch, I bet they take almost exactly the same amount of time to say, because all of the vowels in Mississippi are short, and both the vowels in steamboat are long. Now, on the next slide, I'm showing you the phonetic symbols for English consonants. This is table 2.2. The phonetic symbols are a little different than the letters of the alphabet, and you'll see them going down the left. There's the sound for P as in pet, T as in 10, K as in cat, F as in 4, S as in sorry. Theta, the symbol is a theta, but that indicates the sound that we find in thigh, which is different than the sound in this, by the way. You'll notice that theater and this, thigh and this, have a different sound at the beginning, and we'll talk about why that is. With a th, as in thigh, touch your throat, go thigh, and you'll notice something is different than when you say this. Now touch your throat and say this. Oh, feel that? It's buzzing, right? And that's because th in thigh is unvoiced, but this in this, the is voiced. And so those are different sounds, but in English we group them together as the same unit of meaning. And that collection of sounds that all like do the same thing is called a phoneme in English, or it's just called a phoneme, right? And in some languages, sound differences are not phonemic that are phonemic in other languages. So that difference between th and the doesn't make a word mean something different. Now, if I say the person, you might think I'm talking a little funny for various reasons, but you'll understand what I'm saying. In Arabic, the and the might be two different words. Those are phonemic and distinctive. Here's the thing though, in English, we distinguish between P as in pat and B as in bat. That's another voiced versus unvoiced distinction. In Arabic, those aren't phonemic. It's standard, Arabic. Those are not distinguishing. Those are both the same sound. Arab speakers will hear that pretty much the same. And so it's harder for somebody who's learning English from Arabic to produce that distinction and to hear it, just like an English an English speaker learning Arabic might have a hard time hearing that distinction between the and the. So there's a little more about phonology for you. Phonology is trying to recognize the system of phonemes that belong to a specific language and how they work together and what combinations are possible. And these are the table these are phonetic symbols for English consonants here on table 2.2 in Van Gelderen chapter 2. Some sounds in the English language, as we'll see, like je or the ng sound, we never get at the beginning of a word, right? So what phonemes are possible is also conditioned by where in a language you're going to encounter it. Here we have phonetic symbols for English vowels. I, I, e, a, u, a, I. Roughly speaking, and also the schwa. Teeth, miss, make, bet, bat, toot, book, moat, hot, father, mice. And all of these are different vowel sounds in English with illustrations here. And that's table 2.1 in Van Gelderen. Here, on the next slide, we have a stylized anatomical diagram of the vocal tract with places of articulation. And this is how we describe sounds in phonology. A dental sound is one that's produced with the teeth. So if I put my tongue on my teeth, th, th, ta, 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 then that will be a dental stop or a fricative or so on and so forth. Labial refers to the lips, bu. Alveolar refers to that little bump. You just touch your tongue behind your teeth there. That's your alveolar, and that's da, na, ta. Lots of English sounds use the alveolar ridge. And then the alveolar palatal is a little behind there, and then behind there, farther still, is the velar. And the velar is that where the top roof of your mouth is kind of sloping up past the alveolar ridge. That's where we produce sounds like g and ng and k, I think, maybe? Yeah. And then the glottal is down in our throat. And in standard English, we don't use glottal, but in a lot of varieties we do. Like in Cockney, butter instead of butter, right? And there's a whole bunch of other points of articulation in all the human languages of the world. Arabic, for example, the pharynx is a point of articulation. So there's pharyngeal sounds like like ein is the word for I think. And we don't do that in English. So again, on the next page here is a diagram of vowels charted by position in the mouth. And if you're looking at this, you'll see that on the top left is the vowel E, and in the top back is the vowel U. And so EU, why don't you slide between those vowel sounds? EU, and you'll can feel your tongue moving from front to back and so forth. And so when you're looking at this chart, remember that this is a literal positional diagram of where the tongue goes in the mouth. Okay, this is enough for one lecture. I hope this has been helpful to you. It's a lot it's a lot of technical information, but it's trying to tell you how International Phonetic Alphabet works, how it is that there can be one unique symbol for every possible sound that the human mouth can make. I'm not going to go much more into detail about this because this isn't this is a class where we use linguistics, but this is not an introduction to linguistics, and I don't want to overwhelm you with phonological matter. But if you like this kind of technical analysis of language, then I do encourage you to pursue our linguistics minor and certificate here at Missouri State University. In the next video, I'm going to talk a little bit more linguistics and sort of basic level linguistic understanding of language when we talk about grammar and syntax and how we organize different kinds of languages and what are the different possibilities for how grammar makes meaning in languages. So we're moving up from the kind of material physical level of sound to how we combine different words together. Next week we're going to see how these tools can be used to think about back to diachronic linguistics. Remember that term from last week? That is the changing in languages over time. And we're going to learn how phonology was used to reconstruct vanished languages. We're going to talk a bit about the origins of writing, and then we're going to start to focus in on the Indo-European language family and the Germanic branch of that, to which English belongs. That about wraps it up for this video. Thank you for your patience if you've made it this far. And I'll catch you again.